Okay. Now, okay, so those are some aspects. There are more aspects, but this is covering the major aspects of the Masahif al-Uthmaniyya. Basically, letters that there are like the Sad written as a Sad representing 3 different sounds, added letters like in Tilqa'i and Sa'urikum, subtracted letters like Ad-Da' and Yamh and Ya Ayyuh, and other aspects of the Masahif al-Uthmaniyya. So now we're going back to just a general piece of information, inshallah. Brother Ali says, like the word Ibrahim in Surah Al-Baqarah specifically is spelled without that additional kursi or nabra. That's correct. What's the reason for that? Allahu a'lam. So now we did mention before, we kind of hinted when we talked about sari'u and wasari'u, we hinted that the number seemed to be 6. Right? And that's, yes, that's correct. The number of the Masahif Uthmaniyya, the confirmed number, according to the majority of scholars, is that there were 6 of them. Okay? The reasoning behind this, the confirmation that it's 6, is that when Masahif Uthmaniyya were sent to the different regions, the people of that region would gather around these masahif and would make their own copies from these masahif, okay? So let's say you're living in Washington, D.C., or you're living in Dearborn, Michigan, or you're living in, I don't know the capital of Singapore. Is it just Singapore? I'm so sorry, I'm so uneducated about other countries, I really apologize. Or if you're living in the capital of Egypt, in Cairo, okay? And you're back at the time of Uthman radiallahu anhu, and Uthman radiallahu anhu has sent this mushaf to your region, to your major city, and you are a student of Qur'an, you are a scholar. What are you going to do? You're going to go and you're going to spend every minute that you can outside of your work and earning your living and whatnot and take care of your family. You're going to spend it with that mushaf, making your own copy, right? And then comparing your copy to it and making sure it's exactly identical. And then describing, maybe if you're a specialized scholar, you would write a book on the side describing these aspects. You notice that, look, this word is always written with a sad, and sometimes it's written with a different letter. So you'll start writing about it. Those writings and copies were basically overwhelmingly proven for 6 masahif and nothing more. So in some scholarly books, they mention a mushaf that was sent to Yemen and a mushaf that was sent to Bahrain. So they say it's possible that there were 8. But there's absolutely no evidence whatsoever after that. Could a mushaf have been sent to Yemen and completely ignored, and no one made copies, and no one talked about it, and no one described it, and something like that to Yemen, to Bahrain? It's highly unlikely. That's why the scholars say there are only 6, because there are only 6 that were talked about, only 6 that were described, only 6 that were made hundreds and hundreds of copies of it. So there must have only been 6, wallahu a'lam. Okay, so that's where the number 6 comes from. So these copies, where were they sent to? They were sent to Mecca. Remember, Uthman radiallahu anhu was in Medina. Okay, so we're talking about where they were sent outside of Medina, Mecca. And then to Iraq, the 2 major cities in Iraq, which were back then Kufa and Basra, those were 2 in Iraq. And the Levant, basically Levant means Sham, and the major city there, back then it was called Levant. The major city, today it's called Damascus, Dimashq. And then there were 2 kept in Medina. One of them for public use. So all the scholars and Qurra and students and everything, they would use the public one. And then there was one preserved, just like the Mushaf al-Siddiqi was preserved with Abu Bakr and then Umar radiallahu anhu and then Hafsa, and kept out of people's hands. This one was also very importantly and intelligently also kept out of the people's reach as, the treasure. This is now a copy kept for all of Muslims, kept out of reach, and only Uthman and his close family members could have access to the one copy that was kept out of the reach of the majority of Muslims for well-known reasons, because you need that one copy that will not be distorted or torn or water spilled on, or, you know, just by turning the pages, you know, such delicate material can deteriorate quickly. So these are the 6 copies, okay? Let's see where these different cities are. And here's a nice map I pulled off of Google Maps. And you can see, let's start with down here, the lowest part in geographically, you have Mecca, which is right down here. You have the Red Sea. If you go north, you reach Al-Madinah Al-Munawwara. By car, going from Mecca and Medina would take you about 5 hours if you're going the speed limit. I used to live in Jeddah, which is about 45 minutes away from Mecca. So from Jeddah to Medina is about 4 hours, and from Jeddah to Mecca is 45 minutes. So probably I'm estimating 5 hours according to speed limit. When people do speed, it's like really, really dangerous. Okay, that's by car, so that you can imagine like the differences. So it's kind of, if you live in the eastern region of the United States, it's kind of like going from Washington, DC, maybe to New York City or a bit farther. Okay, and then you keep on going north, 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 northwest-ish. That's Damascus, so that's Levant. And that's where you have Rihlat al-Shita'i wal-Sayf. So in the summer, they would go north, and in the winter, they would go south. Okay, and then go east, you hit Iraq. I don't know if you guys know which one is Basra and which one is Kufa, but Basra is the lower down one. Basra is closer to the Arab Gulf or the Persian Gulf, and Kufa is closer to what we know today as Iraq. Okay, so these are the different cities. Remember, Medina had 2 copies. So if we count, we see 5 red dots, but Medina had 2 in them. Yes, Sister Anise is saying, I found in your book, it said 7 copies, not 6. Could you please let me know which one is correct? The 6 is correct. 6 is correct. You might find in some other books 7 or 8, but I just explained why the 6 is the accurate number. Okay. With each copy, we mentioned before, Othman radiallahu anhu sent some of the greatest reciters, all of whom had learned the recitals from the finest teachers. And in previous slides, we mentioned that these scholars of Quran who were sent with the copies, they would recite according to exactly what matched the skeletal rasm, the skeletal writing in the Musahif. So for example, if a Mushaf Uthmani was sent to Mecca containing wasari'u, then the scholar that was sent with that Mushaf would also have learned the recitation with the waw, not from the Mushaf, but from a companion or from the Prophet ﷺ directly. So basically, the recitation would match what's written. Because the idea, remember, the idea of the Masahif Uthmaniyya and why they had to do this is to eliminate fighting and disagreement. So it would be a problem if the reciter said wasari'u and if the written one was sari'u. That would be a problem because there's a mismatch now between what the reciter is reading and what's written, and that will not help the people of the region. So Uthman was very keen on sending the reciter who recited exactly how it was written, void of dots and fatha dhamma kasra. So now we have 6 reciters, basically 5. We're talking about who was sent outside of Medina. So we have 4 plus Zayd bin Thabit remained in Medina. We have 4 reciters sent with these 4 masahif to 4 different regions, major cities in the Arabian Peninsula and its surroundings, who collectively, these now 4 to 5 reciters are now collectively preserving the ahruf. Understanding that the ahruf means the differences sometimes that occur in words and letters and etc. We talked about that. Okay, so what's next? Who are these reciters? In Mecca, the known reciter to be sent to Mecca is Abdullah ibn Sa'ib, okay, as-Sa'ib. Medina, the scholar assigned now by Uthman bin Affan to be the teacher in Medina was Zayd bin Thabit, of course. And then we have to Basra, Amir ibn Abdi Qais. to Kufa, Abdullah ibn Habib al-Sulami, and to Al-Mughira bin Abi Shihab, he was sent to Damascus. I don't know if you just heard some dinosaurs in my background, but I do have either a dinosaur or something in the room beside me. I just heard some crashing. My daughter must be digging for something, so I apologize if you hear some booms and bangs. Okay, so you see that there are 5 names mentioned here because I'm not mentioning a special reciter being sent inside the house of Othman radiallahu anhu. Othman was the reciter, basically representing the copy that he kept in his house. Okay, here will be now, in addition to last year's course, I've added a brief introduction to each one of these 5 reciters sent with the Musahif. Okay, so here's something new for those of you who are attending for the second time.